The end is in sight, with the US and Israel rolling out their vaccines within the next week or two, and the UK already getting the ball rolling this past week. It looks like we're getting closer and closer to the end of all this craziness. So how's the housing market going to recover, or is it going to recover, once everything's said and done? So there's a couple important things to keep in mind. First of all, the real estate market in Israel is a relatively simple one, so it follows the rules of supply and demand pretty closely. The more construction there is, the more buildings being built, and more new apartments and new houses on the market, the more supply there is. And of course, as babies are born and people make aliyah, then the more demand there is, as well as people moving from being renters to being buyers. So it's important to keep in mind that even before the coronavirus started, there was a problem brewing with the supply. And that is the lack of government. If you recall, we had 3 elections within a year. And in order for big construction projects to start, in order for land to be sold, for big building permits to be issued, for infrastructure to be developed, you need to have a government. And when we had such a long period without government, we had a lack of supply building up. And even now, there's a governmental crisis. It could be that it's going to take longer and longer for more permits to be issued. This problem was so bad that at some points in the past year, new construction was down 50% from the previous year. Of course, most new construction affects the market about a year or 2 or 3 down the line, but some building permits were for much smaller things. Someone adding on a new addition to their home or building a new house, which could really affect the supply for even the next coming months or the coming year. This is all made even worse by the coronavirus. Government offices were shut down, so even when permits were allowed to be issued, there was no one there to issue them. And I've seen this firsthand with one of my clients who was waiting for a rezoning of a home that they wanted to buy. And every step that we got to, there was some kind of delay. Either the architect was in Bijud, or the city engineer was in Bijud, or the office that needed to meet to review the plans couldn't be opened because of social distancing, and things just get delayed and delayed and delayed. There were also periods when the borders were closed and thousands of Palestinian workers couldn't make it to their construction sites, so that further delayed the construction that was already going on. And as these delays build up, the supply side keeps on going down or slowing down while the demand pretty much stays even, besides for a few people who weren't seeing places to buy because of social distancing or because they couldn't make it to Israel. A lot of people had delays in their aliyah because their visas weren't being issued. And as soon as the coronavirus is over, all those things will snap back into place pretty quickly, but the supply side is going to take a much longer time to recover. As a result, pretty much every expert expects the prices to go up dramatically in the next coming years, and even starting in the next couple of months. So for those of you who are on the borderline between buying a place now or maybe waiting a couple of years or even a few months to buy, obviously you shouldn't rush into anything that's not, the perfect deal, or you haven't done the due diligence to make sure that the property is right for you. But if you're just deciding in general whether now's a better time to buy or waiting a little bit longer, it may be a good idea to take a good hard look and see, is the market at a place now that you can afford it? Because in a few months, and definitely in a couple of years from now, it may not be at that same place. Prices are going to be spiking across the country, especially places that were hit the hardest, like Tel Aviv, certain areas of Jerusalem, where the market is very dependent on internationals, people coming from abroad, either to be buying, or the rental markets for Airbnbs or long-term rentals to internationals that were hit very hard by the coronavirus. And as a result, those prices went down. Well, as soon as the virus is over, those prices are going to spike up. So again, if you're deciding whether to wait a little bit longer to start looking for a place to buy, or whether to move forward with something now might be your best time. If you have any personal questions about specific areas that you're looking at and how that may be affected, or your personal experience and how you're going to be affected by the end of coronavirus, feel free to send me a message or send me an email, hillel@trustedhouse.com. And if you have any general questions about how this is all going to look, what the landscape of the real estate market is going to look like in the next few years or a few months, feel free to write in the comments below. Happy Hanukkah to everyone, and I hope we recover from this coronavirus quickly and safely.